Hello, everyone. Welcome to the Richest Men in Town podcast. I'm Mike Freeman, and along with my good friend and co-host Tyler Gould, we're excited to welcome you to our little podcast project. Tyler and I are just a couple of middle-aged husbands and dads driven to live our best lives. We want to be better every day, so here we'll be sitting down with great people. Not famous people, but great people that we admire, to learn their secret to living the rich life. Probably not the rich life you're thinking of. Our guests come in humbled and surprised at the invitation and hopefully leave feeling proud and grateful, realizing just how good they really have it. So pull up a chair, stay a while, and raise a glass with us as we toast our guests to the richest men in town. All right, my good friend and fellow co-host Tyler Gould. This week of the richest men in town did not disappoint. We were just kind of joking in the off the air, like, who goes 126 out of 126, right?
Yeah,
we do.
Yeah,
I think this is episode 126 or 127, and we continue to look at each other like, what the freak just happened?
Yeah,
Nick Skulavik just happened.
I mean, literally, my mind was blown tonight. Honestly, yeah.
Oh, it's a mind thing. It's a heart thing. It's a fire thing. Talk to me about what landed with you after hanging out for a couple, right? A couple with Nick.
Yeah, I just was struck by like how aware Nick was of his journey. You know, he really kind of, he talked about it all, you know, faith, family, where he's at now. Man, he's been through some stuff that would test, you know, the mettle of anybody. And I just, I'm walking away with really kind of my soul filled. And that, you know, it was a good experience to feel that. We talk about midweek church all the time. That's sort of that for us. But tonight I really felt like I was poured into tonight. It was pretty amazing.
Yeah, we get into that good old subject of creativity again pops up. We've had a couple of guests come on and talk about how creativity's added so much depth and potential and possibility to people's, you know, to people's lives and people's journeys. And Nick is definitely walking that. And I love that idea of stepping forward, right? Man, I'm really struggling. I'm in this low place, but then I step forward and I feel God's power in that stepping forward, almost like he's calling me out of some things onto some better things. So definitely aware of who he is spiritually. And like we talk about remembering and forgetting, I don't think Nick is a forgetter.
No, he's a builder on experiences, which I love that about him. And, you know, it's something I want to be intentional about as well. And, you know, one of the things I really love that you said, you know, you mentioned creativity. He talks about, you know, taking up painting. And then he says, after he's, you know, done some bad paintings and figuring some stuff out, he says, I could do anything. I mean, what a statement. And I love it. It's so empowering, right? I mean, you put enough effort in, you put some energy into some things, you can do anything. And Nick's a believer in that. And he proves that not just in painting, but in faith, in family, and all of that.
Well, okay, to Bob, to Anne Marie, well done with this young man. To Lexi, like, keep polishing, right? Keep working, because you clearly saw something in this guy, and we just hope that the world sees it. And that's the whole point of this podcast, is to highlight who Nick is, highlight some of the intentionality that he's striving with. And we get into everything. There's a Melissa Etheridge reference. There's funky cheese. We're talking neat eats, man. Who would think? I don't want to spoil it, but a comment by a BMX pro.
Oh man, he's going to come on. We got to get that guy on this show. I mean, yeah, we covered some ground tonight, man. I learned about, you know, mayonnaise and grilled cheese sandwiches. I mean, it's a life-changing experience. If you want your life changed, you listen to RMIT, whether it's funky cheese, mayonnaise on sandwiches, or just figuring out how to be a grateful, faithful person. This is the place to be.
Yeah. To Sonora, to Marlowe, to Havoc, your dad is a rock star. And we love him. You're going to love him. grab a piece of paper. It's a couple hours on this episode of The Richest Man in Town featuring Nick Skulavik. Enjoy.
What's on your mind tonight, Mike Freeman?
I don't know if you want to know, man.
Dude, now that you say that, I definitely want to know.
Here's the thing. Here's where I'm coming from. And I have kind of soapboxed out this week this thought. NFL draft is coming up.
Yeah.
Everybody's trying to copy, right? Everyone's looking for the next Patrick Mahomes. Here's my point. Do we not believe in coaching? Right? Hear me out with this. Your boys, the Raiders pick up Jimmy Garoppolo. Jimmy Garoppolo can't get a freaking break. He wins 12 games. He goes 12-5, and he can't get a break, right? He gets the ladies, let's be real, but he can't get a break.
Yeah.
Here's what I'm thinking. Like Sam Darnold, right? Zach Wilson. Somebody believed in these guys to draft them. They get in a system. It doesn't work, and they're thrown to the scrap heap. And it's like, can we invest in people? Like, do you not believe that coaches can turn people around? And like, where is the growth mindset, right? I attack life with this idea of I can learn, I can get better. Like, I'm not done. This Richest Man in Town is about not being done. It's about being, sharpened and coached. And everybody's like, no, I'm just going to go try to draft the next Patrick Mahomes and stake everything on that.
Well, I agree with you. I totally agree with you because I happen to be a Sam Darnold fan. I think the guy was a good college player who could have been a good NFL quarterback who was put in a situation where he wasn't surrounded by the right people, right? So if you, I think you want to be coached up, but you want to be put in a situation where you're around the people that are on the same path, right? And I think that, these NFL teams, they just, let's spend a bunch of money on this guy. We'll ignore the rest of these areas and we'll hope that this guy lifts everybody. When the reality is it takes the entire group to lift each other up, right?
Well, and here's the thing.
Which is what RMIT is all about.
I'm venting, right? I'm venting about sports, but this is why I love sports. Sports really is kind of a model for where we're at as a people, right? Like, we give up on stuff. March Madness. This is what I love about March Madness. A 1 seed goes down, a 2 seed goes down, and you talk to that coach, and it's like a DNA, right? You talk to the coach that wins, right? 15 seed, 16 seed wins, and you look at their pedigree, you look at their DNA. You got a 3 or 4 year coach. His first year, they won like 1 game.
Yeah, right.
Then the next year, maybe 4 or 5, and then they win 8, and by the 4th, 26.
Yeah,
right. But like, if somebody saw the 1 or the 5, they would have given up on that guy. They would have been like, nah, get out of here. And so many times we give up right before something amazing is going to happen. I've shared this quote before. I'm going to share it again. Comes from Joseph B. Wirthlin, right? He quotes Jacob M. Brand. Genius is only the power of making continuous efforts. The line between failure and success is so fine that we scarcely know when we pass it. So fine that we are often on the line and do not know it. How many a man has thrown up his hands at a time when a little more effort, a little more patience would have achieved success, a little more persistence, a little more effort, and what seemed a hopeless failure may turn into a glorious success. There is no defeat except within, no really insurmountable barrier save one's own inherent weakness of purpose. How many people are on that line, right? We give up on marriages. We give up on friendships. We give up on careers. We give up on professional quarterbacks. And it just takes a little bit more like, let's get you in a place where you can be successful, right? Success breeds success.
Yeah. No, I agree, man. I love
I
that.
see it everywhere I go.
Yeah. It's rampant, man. I mean, for sure. I love that analogy, I love that quote, obviously. I mean, if that quote doesn't motivate you to take a few more steps, I don't know what will, if you're flirting with the line, but
well, and we talked about copying our heroes a couple of episodes. That's not the copying I'm talking about. The copying of like, I see somebody doing it right, or I see somebody being successful, and I'm going to pattern my life after that. That's all good. I'm not against that. Right. But if I'm watching somebody do it and I can't necessarily do it that way, doesn't mean I can't be successful. Let's find another way. Let's find a way that suits your strengths, right? We've talked about this all the time too. Am I spending time working on things I'm not good at, or am I all in on my strengths? Like Nate Ward, right? I'm betting on me, all in on my strengths. Yeah, I can change some things. I can work on some things. Man, don't even get me started. There's a certain NBA player who got in trouble, right? Got in trouble with the law, and he's piping off and he's like saying, I'm not going to change me. Right?
Yeah, right. Yeah.
We've talked about that before, right? We've talked about this idea, and that's the wrestle too, right? Like how much, like what about us do we not want to change? And what about us do we want to change? And are we spending time changing the wrong things?
Yeah.
Right? Like, we tell missionaries all the time, hey man, don't lose your personality. Be you, right?
Yeah.
Go out in the world, preach the gospel of Jesus Christ. Don't be somebody else.
Yeah.
But at the same time, there's some aspects of our lives that we're probably going to want to change a little bit, sharpen up.
Yeah, man. I think that there's I don't know, dude. I really feel like there's like a balance of like, I'm all about being all in on the strengths. And I agree with that 100%. And I think when we do that, we start to recognize areas that we're like, oh shoot, you know what? This is a thing that I can do as well. It starts to open up some expands our vision to a certain degree, right? Where we're like, oh shoot, you know what? I didn't know this about me. And that's a fun thing when it's like there's self-discovery, right? Because you're pushing yourself, you're working at the things that you know that you can be successful at. And through that success, you're like, oh shoot, I can, if I lean into this thing, that's going to become part of this equation that's making me who I am.
Yeah. Effort. Here's my equation, right? Effort plus your strengths equals amazing. That's how amazing happens.
Yeah.
Right. Effort plus where I'm not so strong might equal improvement. But if we're trying to be memorable, if we're trying to move other people and influence other people, that requires amazing. And amazing is throwing effort, persistent effort, up against your genius, what you were born to do. And that's when amazing happens. And just so you know, Mike Freeman is trying to do something amazing every day. It's on my list, man.
I love that that's on your list, man. Here's the thing, though. I think that amazing, I think that there's this thought that, people would say, well, I'm not amazing, or I can't do amazing, or I'm not big enough to pull something off that it's amazing. And I think that, amazing is a word that gives us visions of grandeur. But the reality is amazing can come in some very small things. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
So
I think like, that's the genius.
For example, right? If you going up to someone and telling them, hey, you're looking good. I love what you got going on today, or what you just did was fantastic. I mean, that can be a game changer for people, right? And I think that small thing, if we put ourselves into these habits of doing things that are outside of ourselves that impact other people, then and the unfortunate thing when we do that is that we don't recognize the impact that might have, or did have, or could have. But I'm here to tell you, man, that's amazing. And I'll tell you it's amazing because I've had people do that for me, right? And they don't even know. They're probably sitting at home going, I've never done anything amazing. And in my mind, I've got a list of the amazing from that little conversation.
But they wake up every day trying to be of impact.
Yeah, I mean,
right? They wake up every day. They wake up every day and they're like, how can I impact people? Because there's a good job, and then there's a eye to eye, handshake. Let me tell you how great that was.
Yeah.
And right, specific compliments and sincerity
100%.
and presence and listening. There are simple ways to do amazing things all around us. Some people are mailing it in. Let's be real.
For sure.
Some days I'm mailing it in, right?
Oh, for sure. I had someone tell me the other day, they said, Tyler, I'm going to try to do this thing. I really want to do this thing. And I just said, I know you will, because it's in your DNA, man. Like you're just going to do it. You make the choice to do that thing. It's just going to come out of you. It's going to become part of you. It's your DNA, you know, it's just who you are. We got to tap into that a little bit though.
But see, Tyler, when you drop that, check the do something amazing box, right? You have that exchange with that guy. You promote that guy to do those things that he wants to do instead of just like, oh, that's cool. What do you want for lunch? Yeah.
But I would like an amazing lunch though. After that conversation, you know, be like, hey, we should get an amazing lunch together.
Oh, speaking of amazing lunch, this episode is brought to you by the San Francisco Deli.
I do like the San Francisco Deli. That place is good, man.
Yeah, San Francisco Deli is good. Don't tell the San Francisco Giants. They might have some copyright problems going on with their hats because they take the SF and they just throw a D on it.
They're like
SFD.
Okay. I was like, man, they're flirting with San Diego and San Francisco.
It might even be the San Diego D. They got some challenges.
But you know what? One challenge they don't have: make a mean sandwich, man.
Making a mean sandwich.
Yeah, that's for sure.
I went hot pastrami.
Oh, that's a good choice.
And here's what I'm learning as a 47-year-old man.
Yeah.
I think man is the key word here, why it took me so long to learn this thing. But in social settings, it's one thing, but in work settings, there's neat eats and there's sloppy eats.
Oh yeah, 100%.
Right. And I guess you're supposed to go neat eat when it's a lunch work setting. And I always go sloppy.
You go sloppy eats.
I go sloppy eats, and it's bad form because people are like, man, why is that guy going chili burger? Right.
You know, I got to tell you, what's funny is a few years ago, I went out to lunch with a group of guys, during work hours, and they were like, let's go to Buffalo Wild Wings. So we get there, we're,
sloppy eats.
And I said, I'm going boneless, man. And they were like, boneless? Like, that's ridiculous. I'm like, it's a professional setting, man. I'm not going to go slobbing out with grease all over my fingers. So now every time I get together with this group of guys to have lunch, the text just says boneless ? And we all know that means let's do lunch, man. So there you go. It's ingrained, man. Sloppy.
That might be the only way, right? That might be the only time when boneless is acceptable.
Yeah, because bone in tastes better. Come on.
What's going on with the blue cheese dressing?
You're not a fan?
Not a fan.
Oh man, I'm a fan.
And the celery? Tell me you don't eat the celery.
Who eats the celery, man?
Who eats the celery? Why do people do this?
I don't know. When they come out and they say,
where do these traditions come from?
Yeah, you want the carrots and the celery? I'm like, no. What, are we crazy?
Celery? Does it have peanut butter on it? Maybe Velveeta? Something?
Like, I just ate 15 chicken wings, and you think that celery and that carrot's gonna set me off nice? No, come on.
But you're about the blue cheese.
I love the blue cheese, man. I love it.
Okay, you know that Kelly Freeman doesn't listen to this, so I'm gonna bury a confession.
I love it. Let's go.
Okay, last night, it's a stormy night in Redding, California.
Okay, yeah.
And I was in charge of dinner.
Okay.
When I'm in charge of dinner, there are only a handful of items that are on the menu. Right.
All right.
And so I decided to go with stormy night. I decided to go with some tomato soup and grilled cheese sandwich.
That's a great classic choice.
Great. And Ricky Gould, big fan of grilled cheese sandwich, right?
And the tomato soup. That's a whole ensemble. She would approve.
Okay. Well, imagine my horror when I pull out the sliced cheese and there might be some funk on it.
Okay, wait. This is pre-sliced, pre-packaged cheese?
Oh, no, this is sliced cheese, but it's not like Kraft. You know what I mean?
Okay, so it's like cheddar cheese, pre-sliced.
So pre-sliced they're not individually, slices aren't wrapped.
Yeah.
So there's some junk on it.
Yeah. Oh yeah.
I picked the junk off.
Look, Mike Freeman, let me just say this to you for a second. Okay.
She doesn't know this.
Okay. When I was a kid, right? We'd have those blocks of cheese, right? Like that you'd had to slice it yourself.
Yep.
And inevitably there was junk on that cheese, and you just chopped that chunk off and just went for it.
This is a good move, right?
Yeah. So, and the funny thing is, I actually told Ricky that. I was like, oh, you just chopped that chunk off and you're off and running. She looked at me like I had lost my freaking mind, man. Like I had just told her that I was from Mars, man. It was.
Yeah. So I cut out the funk, threw the funk away, made me some amazing grilled cheese sandwiches, drop it down for Kelly Freeman. She's like, that's freaking delicious.
You know what? And
I smile.
Yeah.
And then I proceed to make sure that I throw away the trash so she doesn't see what's in the trash can.
That's a strong move. and the follow-up to that is, Kelly, I might have used a little blue cheese in those sandwiches. Just
the blue cheese, what actually gave me the green light, right? I'm like, well, blue cheese is funky, right? Blue cheese got toe jam on it. So why not just, and people love that stuff. The French are all about funky cheese, right?
Yeah, so I mean, I don't know the process for blue cheese. I'm thinking it's a little bit different than just leaving your package open in the fridge and letting it kind of grow wild. But I'm with you on this. So I support it 100%.
All right, we got to get going. We got to get going.
Yeah.
We got my boy tonight. For those keeping score at home, if this episode is unbelievable and amazing, which it will be,
yeah,
I get the credit. Nick Skulavik is gonna drop some crazy wisdom tonight. I'm excited. This guy lights me up every time I get to hang out with him. I'm excited to connect him with you. You love the pre-show. You love yourself some Nick Skulavik. So let's do this.
Let's do it. Open the doors, man. What I like.
I'm gonna pitch that. I'm gonna pitch that hypothetical situation with the funk on the cheese and see what Nick Skulavik would do.
I think it's good. You know what I really like, though? Letting our guests into our studio where they're sitting at that nice mahogany desk that we have sitting there, and we're just face to face. I mean, it's amazing. It's amazing. We've really done some good things with our studio, man. We really have.
Yeah, the studio is amazing. Nick, welcome to the richest man in town, brother. How are you?
Yeah, thanks for having me in the studio. I love this mahogany desk you got here.
See, I told you, and I knew Nick would appreciate it.
Of course, yeah.
Hey, we're moving on up.
Yeah, that's right.
Well, I saw the fine leather books you've got here.
See, I'm glad you can appreciate the fine things that we've done here at the richest man in town, man.
Fine leather books, it's just like screams we're smart.
Yeah,
exactly. Yeah, I mean, we haven't opened one of them.
All of my books have like the grocery bag, folded over like cool, so I'll get there.
That's a good look.
Hey, so Nick, let's just prove right now that we're not smart. I got a question for you.
Okay.
You're a husband, dad, right? I don't know if you have mastered the art of a grilled cheese sandwich yet.
I am pretty darn good at a grilled cheese sandwich.
Nice.
The key is mayo, right?
Whoa.
I've heard this and I've never done it. I love butter.
So. Yes, thank you, Nick. What is happening with mayo?
No, guys.
I feel like this whole podcast just went off the rails completely, dude.
No, I'm telling you,
you should have warned me about this.
The secret is mayo. Anyways, we'll leave that.
Hold on. Wait. Is the mayo like in place of the butter?
Oh yeah.
Oh no.
Oh yeah.
See, when I was younger, I remember making, I think it was my first grilled cheese sandwich, and I don't know, I was like 9 or something, and I put the butter on the inside of the sandwich accidentally. And so it was just like butter and then cheese melted. And it like grossed me out for a while. I still think about it sometimes.
When I was a kid, I never liked homemade ice cream because the salt. I don't know what my family did. My family always jacked it up and the salt got in the ice cream. And so I always thought, ooh, homemade ice cream, salty. I'm out.
We never made homemade ice cream. Until I hung out with LDS families, I had never seen homemade ice cream. And then now it's like more common.
Oh yeah. I got a vanilla that wins it all, wins every competition. Okay, anyways.
Does it involve mayo? I mean, I'm just still blown away by this mayo thing, man.
You guys, I'm telling you right now, we'll throw this out there to the world, and everybody's going to be like, "Yep, Mike just stumbled on it."
I mean,
the key to the perfect grilled cheese sandwich, take out the butter. I'm a fan of butter, man. That mayo crisps it up. But that's not even insane. The situation I'm trying to run by.
Okay, but just wait a second. Okay, if Tanzania and Ireland weigh in and give the thumbs up on the mayo, I'll try it. All right, that's where I'm at. That's where I'm at.
I have faith in Tanzania. I think that
they deliver almost every time.
Okay.
All right, I'm sorry.
Here's the situation.
Okay,
Nick, you're making grilled cheese sandwich for your wife. She's worked hard, right? She's had a rough day. You're just trying to make her lift her burdens a little bit. You go to pull out the block of cheese and there's funk on the cheese, right?
Yeah.
Do you just cut it out?
Absolutely.
Amen, Nick.
Absolutely. Only because I think cheese is okay to do that with, from what I've heard. I don't know about like the cheese I buy, the Tillamook or whatever, but
I totally agree with you, Nick. Here's the question I have as a follow-up to this, though. Does your wife feel the same way?
Probably. I don't know. When you have kids and stuff, you kind of like, stuff falls on the floor, you just pick it back up. And put it back.
This is true.
It kind of, you can just stop caring as much. My mom, she told me about her mom while she was still alive, and she would take like the wilted vegetables, the stuff that's like going bad, she pops it in a soup. She just makes a soup out of it.
Okay. I can see where you can get away with that, right? I mean, lettuce isn't crisp after you've just chucked it in a pot of water. So, okay. I got you.
Brother Freeman, so you would not do the mold? You would throw the block away?
Oh, no, that's what I did. No, that's what I did. I cut around it, made myself.
Yeah.
That was for the people in
Ireland. Love that. I made myself and my bride a grilled cheese sandwich, and it was amazing. And she thought it was amazing, and so there we go. But the trash is full of moldy cheese.
Well, and here's the real reason we're having this conversation is because the fact that the funk was removed was never divulged to Mrs. Freeman.
That's it.
Yeah.
And we're 20 minutes into the episode, so this is not gonna ever get to her. So there you go.
The good news is Kelly has yet to listen to anything we've ever said on this podcast.
And it's ignorance is bliss, right? Ignorance is bliss.
Right. That's right. Yeah.
Okay.
Wow.
So Nick, I'm sorry, but as you can tell, when you come in, like we're a little bit all over the place. That was probably some of the lower hanging fruit from our conversation before you jumped in, but I do appreciate you being on the side of funk on the cheese is okay.
Oh, yeah.
Are you boneless or
No, I got bones. I'm good.
Are you boneless chicken wing fan?
Yeah, I don't eat chicken as much lately. I'm more of like a red meat kind of guy lately, but yeah, boneless chicken wings, yeah, for sure.
Okay.
All right.
Are you like a grill master? Are you a Traeger guy or something?
No, not even close. So I just did a year of a diet called animal based. I don't know if you guys have heard of it.
I've heard of this. Yeah.
So I usually every new year I pick like a goal to do for the year, and it usually involves like removing things. I'm not very good at adding stuff back in, and
like removing things from your life.
Yeah, exactly. So like a few years ago it was alcohol, then it was soda, and then this last year it was animal based. So I pretty much just ate red meat, fruit, honey. That's pretty, I mean, like cheese, that's basically all I ate for a year. And it took, I don't know, maybe a month or two, and I didn't crave chicken anymore. It just felt
interesting.
Weak. I don't know why.
Well, that's the name, right? Chicken. I guess where it came from. I guess.
Right, exactly.
Hey, Nick, so what was the result of the diet? Like, did you lose weight? Did you put on muscle? What's going on here?
A little bit of both. So I lost weight, and then you kind of plateau, right? Because I'm starting to eat a lot of fruit near the end, like like bags and bags of frozen mango from Trader Joe's. And but yeah, I put on muscle. I felt better than I felt in forever. Like,
wow,
legitimately felt better. Problem is, after the year, I did go a little crazy on the sweets because I missed Halloween, Thanksgiving, Christmas time, and I felt like I had some making up to do, and I have pretty much felt a little bit rough this year.
Interesting. I think Joe Rogan just completed a period of time doing that same diet, and he was talking about the benefits of that. So I thought it's kind of interesting. So
yeah.
How do you get past when I eat mango? I feel like I'm licking someone's armpit.
Licking? How so? What do you mean?
It's got a funk. It's got a funk to it a little bit.
So maybe I could see what you mean on the like fresh
you know what I mean?
mango, but the frozen mango, it's like ice cream. It's weird. It's like
get out of here with that. Get out of here with that.
It's amazing. I don't know.
I just love mango, and
yeah,
we've had this conversation many times about the armpits and mango, and we just I don't know.
Yeah. No. Hey, a little bit of housekeeping, Nick. You can lose that brother stuff.
Okay.
We can just do the mic.
But it's taken me like 2 years to remember to say brother, and now I'm like in the habit, and so it's harder for me to go back the other way. But
it's all good. It's all
if
good.
you lose the Freeman thing and just go with brother, we could have like it's like a WWF kind of thing, like where we're just like
just
brother.
Yeah,
brother.
Hey, brother.
Whoa, you nailed that.
Yeah, that was good.
Okay, so hey, Tyler, I love me some Nick. I love his family. I love everything that he's got going on in his life. And as you know, richest men in town, we're walking around, right? We're always walking around looking. We're looking for models, looking for examples. Every time I hang out with Nick, I walk away better. I walk away thinking. I walk away feeling. And it's like, get on my podcast. So Nick, when I reach out to you, I think we reached after a meeting, I pulled him aside. It's like, hey, I got a little something that's not related to anything important, like what we were just talking about. But I got this podcast called The Richest Men in Town. I want you to come on. What runs through your brain with that invitation?
So I felt, first off, like probably most people, I felt like super honored because I don't know what I have to bring to the table. I never really do. But I felt honored that you would consider me to be rich in life. Do you know what I mean? And anytime somebody thinks that I have some kind of an example to give, I'm always super appreciative because I'm kind of just going day to day, feeling like I'm constantly doing, 2 steps forward, 1 step back, trying to work on myself. And so for people to think that I have something to bring to the table, it's always, I think it shows the fruits of the labor of working on yourself, you know what I mean? And trying to do better. And then people might notice that. And so I guess, I just felt grateful that you would even consider me to be a great, a rich man in town,
if I had to, Mike, if I had to define like what it means to be living a rich life or, attempting to, I would just take what Nick just said and just clip it and pass it on. That whole idea of like, I'm just sort of winging it in life, but I'm trying to be decent, to me, that's richness. I'm the person that's sitting in a chair saying, well, let me tell you how I got to be the richest man in town. To me, that's a different, right? It's a different conversation because and I'm not saying that's a bad conversation but it's one that I have a tough time relating to because I'm in the middle of I'm in the slog. You know what I mean? Like I'm like wading through the mire, trying to figure out how to be a person that my wife wants to be around, that my kids can look up to, that just kind of emulating the people that have done it right in my own life, that have gone out of their way to show me. So I love what you said, Nick. I think for me, I love that answer. I could clip that and stick it as the intro to this podcast and let everyone read that, and they'd know exactly what we're all about. So
yeah, no, but and I love that idea, working on me.
yeah.
And I love that, like, okay, every once in a while, life does give us an opportunity where our fruit might be recognized.
Yeah, absolutely.
You know, like, because we're grinding, and every once in a while we get this opportunity where we talked earlier before Nick came on, Tyler, about these impact moments.
Yeah.
Right. Of like somebody seeing something, pulling us aside and saying, hey, young gun, you got something good going on. Like, I see some fruit of some intentional effort and some labor, right? Some striving. And I dig that. Right. And I think that a fruitful life is a rich life. Right. And I think that there's something to be said for that. But here's my question. Like, so Nick, I know that you guys have had an incredible journey, you and your family, and I'm excited tonight to have some time to dig into these things. But like, have you always been working on you?
Yeah, for a really long time I've been doing it, but like more right before I met with my wife, actually. I was kind of just rolling. I was in my mid-20s. I think I was like 25, pushing maybe 26. And you kind of have one of those I've had it kind of moments where you just feel like you're not doing enough. I felt like I've heard the thing, it's like a fire. You're either growing or you're dying, right? A fire never just stays the same. It's growing or it's dying. And so I feel like I was in a low kind of, and I knew I needed to make some changes. And since then, and obviously before, but since then, I've really been trying to figure out who I want to become. And I don't know if I'll ever figure that out. It doesn't feel like I'm going to figure it out, but I know that I'm trying to recognize the things that I'm doing wrong and correct those things, you know? And especially, I mean, as a parent, like, I feel like I'm making mistakes all over the place and trying to learn from those mistakes.
Yeah. I love that idea of, you know, the thinking like I need to do more, or I haven't done enough. I think that's a cool moment, right? And I think it can go two ways, right? We can kind of let that become a burden when we go, oh shoot, I'm not doing enough, and maybe I'm not able to do or reach that capacity or potential. But I think there's also this moment where it's empowering, where we say, shoot, I'm not doing enough. And then we kind of push ourselves. I mean, I've had those moments, you guys, and there's times where I know I'm sort of in this like idle mode. And I think back on those moments and I'm like, shoot, I need to push myself hard right here to get through this kind of like this slow period. So I love that idea of just, you know, recognizing, hey, I could do more, and then pushing yourself to do it. That's a very cool thing.
So Tyler, like a fire though, like I love just the black and white of that. Just the polarity of like, where are you at in life? Are you on fire? Like, is it burning, or is it waning? Right? Is it dying?
Yeah.
There's power. I mean, I think that's powerful.
Yeah.
I mean, I think almost like a touchstone. Like, where am I at today? Right? Am I coming at this thing lit up? Am I coming at this thing on fire? Or am I?
Or even being able to recognize that, hey, the fire's dimming. I got to stoke the fire, right?
Because, okay, well, let's get into that, right?
Like what does that thing, right? Yeah, I think there's a ton there, and I think that's, if we can recognize that and be willing to honestly say that, right? Like, oh man, the fire's barely burning, and I've let it get down here. I got to put some energy into this.
Well, let's get into that, but I think I cut Nick off earlier.
Well, I was going to say, and I think most people, onto what you were saying, Tyler, are living that way, where they're not stoking their fire. They're maybe, I don't know about blissfully, but they're unaware of the challenges that are maybe holding them back. I had an old boss who would say, if that doesn't stoke your fire, then your wood's wet, is what he would say. And just like, you know, you need to be I mean, that's the whole point of this podcast, right? Is to find out how you can stoke that fire to have a rich life, because a rich life has to do with fulfillment, right? Mm-hmm. And joy and contentment and all these things. And if you're not stoking your fire, how can you feel any of those things, you know?
Yeah. No, okay, I agree. So Mike talked about effort earlier, right? And I think that's part of this. That's the equation, right? Is if we're willing to put in some effort, we can kind of see through those dull moments or those the waning fire moments, right? So let's dig in, man. Let's dive
give me the manual, right? So like, let's write this chapter. If somebody's sitting there and they're like, okay, cool guys, I'm listening to you. Fire is dim. Fire might be out, right? So in our own personal experiences, what does that stoke in the fire look like? What does that wood look like? Where do we begin to do something about that? If we were to help somebody out,
I think it starts with recognizing that doing the same thing is not going to get you new results, right? And for me, in my kind of low, the first thing that really kind of sparked a little bit of a fire was painting.
Wow.
I never wanted to paint. And then I decided, there was a guy it was back in Portland, and he would do these really cool paintings, but they were all sunsets. And I really liked space. And I asked him, would you ever consider doing like a space kind of painting? And he said, no, I only do sunsets. And I thought, I wonder if I could paint what I want to see, you know? And it really sparked this creativity. And creativity is a big part of life, you know, whether it's creating the life that you want, or creating children, or creating art, or creating whatever it may be. Being creative is really fulfilling and really intriguing. And so trying something new, whatever it may be, will make a difference in your life. You see a lot of older people do it if their wife or their husband passes, you know, they kind of try to figure out what to do with their life. And then you'll see them out there learning, they're doing like Zumba and they're like 80, you know what I mean? Because they're stoking their fire.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, and they're looking for a date in the Zumba class. I mean, I'm imagining, right? I gotta believe.
Or Tai Chi,
a good
right? Tai Chi.
Or Tai Chi. So, Nick,
okay, so Nick, you never painted before, and you just had this thought, I wonder if I could paint.
Yeah, it didn't even. I could barely even understand the concept of like the layering, and I liked drawing growing up, but painting was like this whole new thing. So I had to go like buy paint kits and buy some canvas and make a really bad painting, and then you just figure, you like do a mistake and then it looks good and you're like, I'm gonna do more, I'm gonna do more of that.
So Nick, what does that unlock in you? I mean, when you talk about creativity and trying something new, being giving you kind of this new life and some energy, how does that work? Like what is that feeling that you had when you realized that maybe I can do this?
It's this feeling, and it's a feeling I felt, I mean, I still feel to this day, but I felt a lot early on in my relationship with Lexi. You can do anything. Do you know what I mean? Like everybody has so much potential to do things, but we don't feel like we can, or we're afraid to try something new or whatever it is. And it sparked this cascade of, oh, I bet I could do that. Oh, I bet I could learn this. Oh, I bet I could do that.
Mike, this is exactly what we were talking about at the beginning of this podcast, right? You talked about going all in on your strengths. And I think that what I love about this is that we talk about, as you're all in on your strengths, you start to expand your vision and go, shoot, I could do this other thing. And this other thing will actually make me be a little bit, will expand my horizons a little bit. I love that idea of painting, looking at your bad painting, going, yeah, man, I'm gonna give it a try, and it gets better, and you're like, I can do anything.
Yeah.
Okay, can we
freaking crazy. Mike, say these words. I can do anything.
I can do anything.
It's
I can do it.
freaking
Okay.
crazy. There's people right now that are listening to this going, I can do nothing. That's the wild part, right? So I love the idea of unlocking something that you're totally unfamiliar with, you're failing at on some level, and then you're like, I can do anything. That's freaking crazy, man.
Okay, so Nick is changing my mind, right? Like all this, like all in on strengths. I get the all in on strengths, but like, is that the same as I only do sunsets?
Go explain what you mean. I'm sorry.
So we were talking earlier before you came in, like, okay, I'm going to do what I'm going to do. I'm going to do it well. And I'm not going to spend time on these things that I can't do. But like that is in direct kind of contradiction to this idea of I can do anything. And it almost feels like, nah, I do sunsets really well. That's all I do.
You know, I've fallen into that trap a little bit with painting. And then lately with my daughter, at the end of the night, Lexi will be putting our baby down, and then
hold on, let's break it down. So Lexi's your wife.
Lexi's my wife, and we've got 3 delightful children. One is Sonora, she's 6.
Beautiful name.
It's great. It actually means beautiful sound.
Love it.
And then Marlowe is our 2-year-old, and then we've got our youngest Havoc, who's 8 months old, and so the 2 youngest will be asleep, and then me and Sonora, we used to watch like we both like to ride, like I ride mountain bikes and BMX, and she likes to learn it too. And we used to watch these videos, and then eventually she wanted to do something different. She's like, Papa, let's draw together. I'm like, okay. And then she's like, let's draw this. And it'd be these things that I would never think to draw, right? I would never even choose to draw them or anything. And I'd be drawing them, and I'm like, this is turning out really well. We're like drawing like a fireplace with a bookshelf behind it and a window with a tree, and we're both trying to draw the same drawing. And it's again of that feeling like, hey, I can do this. You know what I mean? But it does require not being the I only do sunsets guy thing, which is a really easy trap to fall into, because we like to do what we're comfortable with.
Because that's what you're good at, right?
Yes.
That's almost like, no, I don't do that because I'm not good at that. I'm only good at this. So get out of here.
Right.
Right.
And generally, if you get
you
good
feel
at
that
something,
tension. I'm feeling that tension right now.
Yeah.
Like I'm all about me, and I'm all about my strengths, and I'm not working on things. Versus that becomes that I only do sunsets.
when you get better at things, or you get good at things, it becomes fun. So even if you're not the guy who does this whatever thing, if you do it and you get good at it, you're going to have a fun time, because it feels good to learn things and get good at things.
It reminds me, Mike, we had a guest on our show, and he's an artist, and we were talking about art, and I said, you know what, shoot, I am a jack of all trades, master of none. And he said, that's a really good place to be. Right. He kind of said, that's a good spot to be, where you can do a little bit of everything. And I never thought about that. Like in my mind, I was like, yeah, I'm a jack of all trades, master of none means I suck at most of everything. You know what I mean? And he was like, shoot, you're in a good spot. You can do all these things, you know? That's interesting. I really love that mindset, because I think there's a lot of people that will dismiss their potential before they've even tried to tap into it, you know? And I'm guilty of that. I'm 100% guilty of that, you know, but so I love that idea of give it a shot, see what you can do, and realize that you're capable of a lot more than you think.
Well, and I think that, Nick, you were talking, so I mean, we were talking a little bit. So when the fire's out, right, or when that fire is dying down, understand that something's got to change. And that gets into that disruption, right? Disrupt yourself, and almost like that creative disruption, generate something, right? Introduce some creativity into your life and disrupt the status quo to put your fire out, right?
Absolutely. Yeah, exactly. Well, it's cool too, because like so when I was younger, I always wanted to be a cartoonist. When I was really young, I used to want to I'd watch Angry Beavers. I don't know if you guys remember that cartoon. It was a silly Nickelodeon cartoon, but it showed how you make a cartoon. And then this whole process of trying new things and getting into art. A few years ago, actually I say a few, 2018, I don't know, it took me maybe 2 years, but I made a cartoon. I learned how, and I made like a 15-minute cartoon.
What?
And it started with me. I had to make like a little light board where there's a light behind it, and you can put the paper on it and you can do your drawings. And I would draw those, and then I got onto Photoshop and tried to draw them there. And then eventually I downloaded like a animation software and drew them better on there. And then 2 years down the line, I've got this, like, I think it's a decent little cartoon. And I've like storylines and I want to do more. I just have to take the time, but you don't know where you're going to take yourself once you spark that fire and that I can do anything. I can learn it. I'm going to be rough at first, but over time I'll get better.
I might be the I can do anything within reason kind of guy, because that whole cartoon thing seems out of the realm of my ability.
Well, did you bury that dream of being a cartoon, and then as you exercise some creativity in your life, that resurfaces?
Exactly. So I buried it forever. Like I was very young when I used to want to do it, and then it was because my dog, he was like my boy. His name was Elvis.
Let's honor some Elvis right now, right?
Yes, he was one of the good dogs. You know what
Hall
I mean?
of Fame.
What kind of dog was Elvis?
He was a black lab border collie mix, something along there, and he just fell into my lap. Somebody was going to put him down when he was like 2, and they were like, "Do you want him?" And I was like, "Sure," and I'll find a home. And then we just got on, and I had him for 12 years. And as he was getting close to dying, or like near the end of his time, I started to have these cartoon ideas of what will happen to him after he dies. And
how old are you at this time?
So this is 2018. I'm 36. So
okay.
Wow, that's
4 or 5 years ago. Yeah, it was super late into it, and I just kind of ran with it. You know, I was making video games, just really basic ones, but like really like from scratch video games with him again, different character, doing all the things. I don't know. You just kind of, it's cascading.
That's so cool.
Yeah.
So cool.
You think you know a guy? I got no idea who Nick is. No idea who Nick is. I'm excited. Let's dig into this, right? So we'll come back to this Light Your Fire. In fact, that might even be another episode. But let's get into this kid dreaming about being a cartoonist. Where did you grow up? Talk to us a little bit about your childhood, growing up, family, that kind of thing.
Okay, so I was born in Fontana, California, which is like near, I think, Pasadena area, and we lived there till I was about 4, and the first memory I have as a kid is my 4th birthday, and I'm eating funfetti ice cream or funfetti cupcakes with the funfetti icing, and my mom is looking at me and she's pointing out and she goes, "Nick, you see over there? There's mountains over there, but you can't see them because the smog." Mm-hmm. And she's like, "So we're moving." And I just kind of remember that moment. And so we moved to Portland area, like Beaverton area, and lived there till I was about 8.
You got siblings?
I do. I have a sister.
Okay.
Her name's Chessa. Another unique name.
You guys got cool names in your family. That's cool.
Yeah. Yeah, she's got a great name. Chessa Renee is her middle name too. So it's good.
And your name is Nick.
Yes.
Okay,
boring, just not boring, but just
I just wanted
simple.
to check. I mean, you know.
Sorry to all the Nicks out there. It's a common name.
Okay, yeah. Just verifying. I mean, your name could have been something else, and you're just going by Nick. I don't know. You know,
Nicholas. Yeah, exactly.
There you go. Yeah.
And then my parents got divorced when I was 8, and so from there, we still lived in the Beaverton area. But I went and lived with my mom, with my sister, and then my dad stayed close. You know what I mean?
What are their names?
So I've got, my dad is Robert, or Bob, that's what most people call him. And then my mom is Anne Marie. No middle name, just Anne Marie.
Love it.
And yeah, so they split up and lived with my mom. Don't really remember too much of that time. I was thinking about this when I was kind of thinking about my parents with this whole podcast, and I don't remember a lot of that time. And I'm sure it's my brain being like, push it down.
Yeah, right.
It'll pop back up later, one day. Yeah, so I lived with my mom until I was 12, because that's when I was told that I could move in with my dad. I couldn't wait to move in with my dad. No, it was no offense to my mom or anything. I just had this desire to go live with my dad.
Were you and your dad close in those years leading up to that age of 12? Yeah.
My dad, he's so invested in he loves his family. If him and my mom could have worked out and we just had a little tight-knit family, that would have been the dream for him, I'm sure. But he would come and pick me up from school and like take me out to lunch. And one of the best memories I have of him in that time that you're talking about is him picking me up from school, taking me to it was a new skate park, and I didn't ride skateboards or bikes or anything at the time, but he just took me to it, and it was raining, and we just slid down the quarter pipes, and awesome. We just had the best time. You know what I mean?
Wow.
And it was it was really cool.
Very cool.
And so yeah, I moved in with him and lived there pretty much the rest of my time until I moved out.
Wow. And so where does life take you after you move out? Is that what's the next spot on the journey for you?
So that would be when me and my best friend moved in together. I was working for an asbestos abatement company. Not a great job. I wouldn't recommend it to anyone.
It comes with its
wear the ventilators.
Yes,
that's right.
Ventilators. And we moved in together, and that was kind of just cliche party time.
Still Oregon?
Still in Oregon.
Mm-hmm.
And we just were like bachelors living it up. We had a big projector, we had a pool table in the living room, projector on the wall, and yeah.
Sounds very irresponsible.
It really was.
I've proposed that same setup to my wife in our living room. Actually,
the pool table.
Yeah, she's yet to approve. But Nick, looking back on that time before you're out on your own, what are some of the lessons that you're packing with you that mom and dad and even your sister have taught you over this time? Good, bad, or indifferent?
So with my dad, this is the first thing that comes to my mind. It's something that he would always say is, Nick, you just have to be 5% smarter than whatever it is you're working on, whatever the task is. If you're working on he would teach me to fix a car. We'd do the brakes. He'd take me out there. We replaced the clutch on my old car. Whatever it was, he knew that you could learn it and you could become good at something if you just took the time and was 5% smarter than whatever you were working on.
Almost that I could do anything.
It really is. Yeah. My dad is one of those guys. My dad was a machinist. He worked for Freightliner, and he did tool and die, and he made my pegs for my BMX bike.
Awesome.
We would build ramps in the backyard. He made his own weight set. Like, he made like a lat pull down machine, you know what I mean? And he'd make the weights that he had. He made his weight rack. He just was really capable. And I think it definitely inspired me to do that kind of stuff.
Yeah. I can, as you're describing your dad, it just sounds like you saying, I could do anything, right?
Well,
I mean,
like
it's almost that
creating the life you want.
Yeah.
Like a machinist, right?
Yeah. I mean, I could see your dad saying, I'll build this lat machine. You're like, I'll try a painting. I'll do a cartoon, right?
Right.
It's
I'll create solutions to my problems, right?
yeah.
Well, and it's funny too, because now I run a woodworking business, my own business that I've been doing since 2015.
Mm-hmm.
And for a while, when I was not having to wake up early to go to work, when I was just doing this kind of stuff, I would stay up late. I'd be up till like 2 a.m, finishing products to ship. I sell for like on wayfair.com and like Etsy and stuff, and I have to ship them. And I was talking to my dad, and he's like, yeah, that was me. Like, he had a machine shop in his garage, and he'd be up till 2 a.m working on side projects, and he'd wake up at 5 a.m to go do his normal work, his normal job.
It's that modeling, right? It's that imprinting.
Yeah. And you don't recognize it when it's happening. It's not like at the time you're thinking, yeah, I'm going to be just like him,
Yeah. Tell me something beautiful about your mom.
So my mom is a very sweet. First off, growing up, she was a independent. She was a VP of Bank of America, like one of the branches, or VP manager, that type of thing, and very hardworking, determined, that independent woman of the 90s kind of thing. I remember listening to. She was like a Melissa Etheridge type woman. I know all the words to half the songs on the CDs because she would play them all the time. And then she's had some situations that have happened to her that were very rough with working at the bank. She had a really bad robbery, and it kind of jarred her and changed the whole course of her life. And now she's this. I love her more than I've ever loved her. She's become this sweet, humble woman who cares about her family, and I just appreciate her for it.
And do you link it back to that event?
I do, because it took the fall, it took humility, and it's not that she did anything wrong. It was a very, very crappy situation for her. She had the gun to the back of her head. She had to open up the vault, and she used to have these dreams of not being able to remember the combination. And as this is all happening, she's having trouble with the combination, and the guy's yelling at her, and she had to not work for, I think it was like a year or two.
Yeah.
And then when she went back to work, she worked for a lady who was very aggressive and almost preyed on her weakness a little bit, preyed on her vulnerability, and that caused her to stop working altogether. And eventually her mom, my baba, my grandma, she was alone in the house and needed someone to take care of her. And so my mom went and lived in Vegas with her to help take care of her. And so this whole process, this whole like humbling, whether or not she deserved it, you know what I mean? I don't think she deserved to go through any of this, but it has turned her into,
softened her.
Yes, it's turned her into a sweeter person. And she's growing stronger every day, and that's taken time, and it breaks my heart to see her have to grow stronger, but I admire it. She's actually coming here Easter, which is going to be great.
Awesome.
That is cool. Bitter or better, right? I think that's the choice we all have when things like that happen. We can let this harden our hearts, like our friend David Hill would teach, right? We can or let it soften us.
Yeah.
And
can I ask,
we can become bitter, or we can become better.
Yeah. Can I ask how your mom sees that situation? Has she ever let you into that?
I don't know if she's gone too far into it. I'm sure she wishes it didn't happen and regrets it. I don't know if she views it the same way as me. You know what I mean? And maybe it's because I'm on the outside, and sometimes when it rains, it pours, right? I mean, even living with her mom as she was taking care of her, her mom was not very nice to her.
Mm.
And that really broke her down, especially when you're isolated from everyone that you know. She's living in a whole nother state, living with her mom. And even then she's being beaten down. And it seems like she's gone into some pretty dark places, you know, and that's what I mean by coming out stronger. I think it was like 8-9 years that she lived with my grandma. And as time went on, it probably got rougher and rougher, you know, as people's minds start to go a little bit, they have less of a filter and aren't as in control or aware of others. And it kind of reminded me of Ricky Gervais. Do you guys know who Ricky Gervais is?
Yeah.
His mom made friends with this old person who seemed like they were going to die, you know, relatively soon, and made friends and decided to start like taking care of them. And after 7 or 8 years, she was like, Rick, she won't die. And I have a feeling there's a little bit of that with my mom, where you're in it and you love them, but you're also looking for a little bit of this relief from this.
Yeah.
Not a prison, but you know what I mean?
100%. I'm wondering if have you had this conversation with your mom? I'm sure, you know, I'm just curious.
A little bit. Yeah. We've talked about it, and I try and be a person that she can talk to about this kind of stuff, because it's hard to go it alone.
Yeah. I only ask because you've said some beautiful things about your mom, and I just love the way you've described that journey, as hard and as rough as it has sounded, and the outcome of that. I can feel the love that you have for your mom, for sure.
I do. And more as I get older, you know?
Yeah. So we talked about how your dad kind of imprinted on you, and you find yourself following, you know, doing similar things. What has rubbed off on you from your mom as you've watched her go through life?
We have really similar personalities, and for better or for worse, you know what I mean?
You know, just those influences just kind of push our ship in a direction.
And that's life, right?
And that's life. Yeah.
That's 100%. Life. I mean, there's variables in life that are pushing our ships.
Yeah. Yeah.
You know, we talk all the time. This show is about drive, not drift.
Right.
Right. And I think that sometimes, there's some things that come at us and influence us, but we drive ourselves through those things in an effort to take what life has to teach us and be better and not bitter. That's easy to say, really easy to say.
But again, you talk about modeling, and you talk about your mom, Nick, just going through these hard things, and your observation of she's getting stronger.
Yeah.
You know, and I think that's like, if someone were to describe the pain that we've been through for any of us, and at the end of that description of our heartaches and our tribulation, they said, but Mike's getting stronger. Like, that's the description I want people to say about me.
Stronger, sweeter.
100%.
You know what I mean?
Yeah.
More compassionate, more humbled. You know, there's all these things that you can take from that. And a lot of the time in life, it does take hitting a low. Do you know what I mean? It's through humility that we tend to soften ourselves. It's, you know, that's why people tend to find a relationship with God or with Christ in those times of humility, right? Because they've humbled themselves.
Yeah, 100%. I love that. I love that. Thanks for sharing that about your mom. That's fantastic. Yeah.
Okay, so go back to that bachelor Nick, right?
Okay.
Are you living the life that bachelor Nick, that 20-year-old Nick was imagining he would be living at the ripe age of, what are you, 30?
36.
36, right? So if you go back to that, are you living the life that guy was dreaming?
Not even close. I thought that I would be, I never thought I'd want to get married. I never thought I would want to have kids. I wanted to do, I had friends and we'd want to do like shows, like comedy shows. We wanted to do stand-up comedy. We wanted to write comedy. Like we were really, really big on that. I always imagined I'd be, when you kind of people romanticize celebrity, that lifestyle that they could have. I think it's waning these days, but at that time, early 2000s, mid 2010, 2012, somewhere in there, I looked for that lifestyle. I wanted to be rich, but like not Mr. Bugatti, just like funny and rich and partying and hanging out with my friends and kind of having that crew of people is more where I saw myself.
Well, that segment is dripping with irony because we're hanging out on the richest men in town.
Yeah, but I got to hear about this desire to be in comedy. Like, talk. I mean, look, Mike. This guy is an artist. He is. I mean,
he's a jack of all trades, brother.
The comedy thing I love. So did you give that? Did you put energy behind that? Did you write? Did you perform? Did you tell me about that?
So I wrote, and me and my friend Charlie, we would write together. We would try and come up with ideas, and we'd share little ideas, and I would keep like a notebook with me. And I look back on them sometimes, and I'm like, what was I talking about there? Because it'd be
why was that funny?
Yeah, exactly. And one time I tried stand-up comedy, and it was actually one of the first dates with my wife. Was me and my buddy Charlie doing stand-up comedy. And it's a lot harder than it seems, because people will be like, you should try stand-up comedy, because they think you're funny in the moment. But writing a bit it's not that easy. And I told 3 jokes, and the first 2 bombed.
Okay.
It did not go well. And you got bright lights coming at you. You can't really see the crowd, so you can't even tell if they're laughing or if you're doing well, if they're smiling. And that's a really awkward thing to go through. And then my third one worked, and I got a laugh, and I ended it with a laugh. So that.
Well, I got to tell you, if you go bomb, and then crush it, because you're trending in the wrong direction. So that third joke had to be freaking hilarious to turn the tide, right? Because you're dying up there, and to get a laugh on the last one, there you go.
I think there's wisdom that Nick just dropped on us, right? Like the room enjoys something you said, leave. Like you just did it. Get out, man.
Yep. And on a good note, and call it quits from there.
Well, I love that. I thanks for sharing that. I think that's awesome. I mean, I've always thought, like, I love comedy. I love watching comedians and going to, live comedy. And I always think, like, this is one of the hardest jobs ever, man. Yeah. It's brutal,
But if you were good at it, wouldn't it be so fun though? What I mean?
100%. Yeah, absolutely. Around. Yeah. My own family won't laugh at stuff I say. That's the problem. Like it's just crickets. I bomb them on a nightly basis.
My wife thinks I'm hilarious, and she'll roll her eyes right now with me saying this if she hears this. But then other times she'll be like, "You think you're so funny."
Yeah, I get that one.
Well, hey Tyler, shout out to Sam Borquez, episode number 72, Richest Man in Town. He's actually
doing stand-up comedy.
I know. He just jumped in.
Next time I'm in Reading, I am going to plan it around an opportunity for Nick and you and I to go see Sam Borquez.
Let's go
perform live. Man.
We'll all open for him.
Oh, man.
Oh, you think you're so funny. I can hear Kelly Freeman saying that right now.
I know. Yeah, exactly.
Oh, let's watch this. He thinks he's so funny. Okay, so Nick, we need you to get this next part right, okay?
Okay.
Let's talk about how you met your wife.
Oh, I can see why I need to get this one right.
So because your wife might listen. Your wife might listen to this episode. Let's make sure we get this right.
She's going to. I guarantee you.
There we go.
What is he saying? What is he? Yeah.
It's called fact checking.
So that is actually a pretty funny story because I dated a girl for a long time. She was that girl that kept coming in and out of my life, right? Kind of near the end, kept me in the back pocket. You know, I was in love with her, or I thought I was, you know, and every now and again she would reach out to me and
you were convenient.
Yeah. You get a little hope, you get a little like, hey, maybe this could, you know, and she told me about this job at this pest control company. And I'd done door to door for 10 years. I did really well at it, selling like cable, internet, and phone, or traveled for it. And this was pest control door to door sales kind of job. So I took the job, and the day that I did the interview, apparently my wife was like, as soon as I walked out of the room, she was like, I choose that one. That one's mine. You know, so she's already like interested. And at the very end, I think when I was waiting though, I heard her and her coworker talking about going on their lady date. They kept saying their lady date to go see Jurassic Park. It was being re-released and in the theaters. And so they kept talking about this lady date. And so I thought, she's a lesbian. is what I thought, you know. I thought she's cute, but she's off the market.
Right.
And
she's not interested.
Yes. And so then like a month goes by before I actually start working there after the interview, and she starts flirting with me pretty hard. And I was like, oh, you know, I think I read this one wrong. And we hit it off for 3 days. And then I quit that job because I didn't.
Hold on. You can actually read signals when she's flirting with you.
Yes.
Okay. So they must have been like blatantly overt.
They were pretty strong. Yeah.
Okay.
and on the third day, when I was going to quit, I knew I was going to quit. Me and her were getting on. I wanted to get her phone number. And so I painted, they have these there's these pine cones that look like roses. They're called cedar rose cones. And on my walk with my dog, I would see them all the time. And so I picked up some and I painted them to look like galaxies. And then I put a little stem on it and then brought it with me to give to her when I asked for her number. I was so nervous, which is so weird because I'm normally not nervous with talking with girls, but maybe internally I knew this was kind of a big one and didn't recognize it, you know, but my body's like, my spirit is knowing. And so I'm nervous. I'm kind of shaking, trying to put the rows together. And I'm talking to her and waiting to ask for the phone number. And I'm like, yeah, so it's my last day here, you know, kind of leading into it. And then she just grabs a sticky pad, writes her phone number down on it, and gives it to me before I can even ask the question. And we went on a date, I don't know, within a few days from there. And that's it. Wow. We spent pretty much every single day together and hit it off. And I proposed to her at 6 months. We got married at a year.
Wow.
And
how long have you been married now?
9 years. It was 2014. Yeah. So 9 years. We've been together for 9 years this May 18th.
Wow.
Yeah.
Congrats, man. That's a big deal. That's a big deal. It's no small feat for sure. That's awesome.
And it's interesting too, because you get that feeling of like early on we got it where, I don't know if you guys know what I'm talking about. It was of course it's you. It's it's you. That kind of feeling where like you feel like you knew each other before all this, and you can feel life's plan kind of merging together.
Yeah.
I love that. I love that feeling of it's over.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Like I'm done.
Yeah.
I'm done looking. I'm in harbor. Like that's it. Right.
And I'm not a commitment. Like Lexi jokes all the time. I don't know how you married me because I lack commitment. Like if we were to make plans, I'm like, yeah, we'll see how it goes. You know, that kind of vibe. And she's like, I don't know how you married me, but I knew it was right.
Nick, so I've been married 26 years. Okay.
Wow.
And my wife and I, our anniversary was in February. We went out, we went away, actually stayed at the hotel that we stayed at the night we were there for our honeymoon. And I was checking into the hotel, and the lady at the front desk said, have you guys been here before? I said, yeah, we've been here before. And she said, is it a special occasion? I said, it's our anniversary. And she said, how long have you been married? And I said, 26 years. And she said, ooh, that's just like that. Ooh, marriage is hard. Now, I agree with her. Marriage can be hard. So let me ask you, you've been married almost 10 years, coming up on 10 years. What has that time taught you about you, and what has your wife taught you about you?
Nothing has changed me more than this relationship. It's funny too, because it was like maybe 2 months before this was that time when I felt like something's got to give, right? I gotta stoke a fire. I gotta make these changes. I gotta figure out what I want. And I went in a forward progression. And then 2 months later, I meet my wife. It's like God was waiting for me to make the decision to step forward before I got given this gift. And I've never felt, it's not like she's holding me accountable, but I've never felt more accountable. You know what I mean?
Yeah, I do.
You really recognize all the flaws you've got, all the things you take from your childhood or from your parents' relationship or from your past relationships. If you've been wronged or if you've had good ones or whatever it is, you bring it all in, and you have to figure it out. And this goes back to what we were talking about with recognizing what you need to work on. And luckily I am the type of person that likes to work on myself, so I can make these changes, and I'm nowhere near the person I was when I met her, and I appreciate that.
Yeah, and here's the wild thing: she saw who you could be.
Exactly. Yes.
Right. They all can. They have some kind of, they go to, I know they go to some kind of class or something, and they have this ability to see through what we're presenting at the time.
I'm thankful to her for that perception.
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, right. I mean, I think I think everybody needs that. Someone who can look at us in our worst and say, hey, this isn't who you are. Right. This is, I think, and I can help you, and I'm going to help you get there. Yeah.
Before Nick jumped on, we talked about that love, share, invite pattern.
Yeah.
Right. And I think somewhere along the way, somebody's got to invite us to higher ground.
Yeah.
Somebody's got to see us, and somebody's got to, wives are good at this. Maybe a teacher along the way, maybe a parent along the way, a church leader along the way, but somebody's got to come and say, are you okay hanging out down here? Because this isn't you.
Well, and it goes, you asked the question early on in this podcast to Nick. You said, and that's kind of how we got into the painting conversation, but you said, how do you move through those down moments? And I think part of that is we surround ourselves with people that either are on a higher plane than us and are willing to lift us up to a different plane, or are willing to remind us of what we're capable of, right?
Or bring it out of us, right? The thing that shows you that she's a great woman, or a great, wife or partner, whatever you want to say, is she brought out the best in me. It's not like she forced it out of me or, made me do it. It was, I desired to be better for her and be more worthy of that.
And here's the cool thing, right? Like, I can just say, and Mike, I know you can relate to this, but 26 years in, I'm still wanting to be better for me, but a lot of it's for her. Because I know that she still sees like, Tyler's got a lot of work. Right.
Yeah, you can call me a lot of cool things, right?
Yeah.
Nothing cooler than Kelly's husband and Grace and Abe's dad.
Yep.
100%.
Like, period.
Yeah.
But I am going to go into this, and I probably have gone into this in the past, but I think Nick, you just highlighted it for me. I've got this poster in my office called Weeks of My Life, and every Friday I fill in a box. It's a tall poster. It's going to map out 88 years of my life. And so every Friday I check the box, right? I check the box in black, but every once in a while you'll look at it and they're not all black. There's some that are highlighted, right? Red. And my coworker the other day was like asking me about like, what's going on with this? What's going on with this thing? I said, this is a reminder that time's finite, right? That I gotta go. I gotta push. Tomorrow's not given. All of these things. It's like, what's with the red boxes? So those are moments, man. Those are moments that I will not ever forget. And he's like, huh. So the other day he's walking out of my office, he's like, let's go get a red box, huh? Nice. I'm like, ooh, young grasshopper. Let me tell you about the red box. Because the black box right before it was low. These moments that come that are amazing, right before it, I'm in a crisis.
Yes.
Right. So I'm not, I love me some highlighted boxes, but those come with the cost,
and all along he just wanted to rent a movie with you out in front of 7-Eleven, right? You had no idea. The red box, man. Yeah. You're just like, oh, I was waxing deep on this one, bro, but let's go get Die Hard and watch that.
Hey, you know what? That guy's funny. He should do a stand-up.
Yeah. Well, but that is the pattern for life. It's something that the sooner, I don't know, maybe I'm missing it completely, but the sooner you...
No, but that's it. The invitation to step forward, right? Like step through this. On the other side of this is something remarkable, but you got to go through this to get to that.
Well, I think that's a gift, Mike, to be, I mean, it is. And I appreciate that you have that visual aid and you're having that conversation with people, because it's a gift to be able to be going through it and then be able to recognize that, man, this is a good day, even though 24 hours earlier it was a
you know what
disaster,
I love about it,
right?
It puts the word crisis in proper context.
I love that. Yeah,
right? Somebody's
awesome,
like,
man.
oh, I'm in this crisis. Like, oh, brother, don't waste that.
Yeah.
Don't waste that. Like Tyler, we talk about it all the time, man. I'm trying to figure some things out. How cool is that you have an ounce of faith and you're trying to figure stuff out?
Yeah.
Because the guy next to you is probably not even trying.
Yeah.
Right.
Absolutely.
He doesn't even know there's a question.
Right.
We live our life in these like autopilot. When you're driving and you don't even realize you're driving.
Yeah. You're like, oh man, I just drove 30 miles.
Yeah, right.
How did I not kill somebody, really?
So we do that in life.
Yeah.
And then moments happen.
Yeah.
And you can tell when you're in a moment. At least I can. You know what I mean? You can feel I'm in a moment and it's hard. But there's, like Mike was saying, there's something that's going to grow from this. There's
preparing you, right? Yeah.
A boss I used to have, he gave me this, I don't know if it's a poem, but it's called it's in the valleys we grow. And I always think of that, like it's in your low that you grow into something greater. When you're in a high, you're kind of just rolling. You're like, yeah, life's good. And then you get in your low and it forces change.
Yeah. Yeah. And I think that there's, I think that, like, going back to Mike's ability to kind of recognize the beauty of the day after, right? The beauty of recognizing that there's change. I think it's a gift. I think that, I don't know. I think today there's a lot of people that are struggling to see the beauty of the next day,
Yeah, but I'm telling you, so I've said this before, I'll say it again. Robert Browning Hamilton, I walked a mile with pleasure, she chatted all the way, but left me none the wiser for all she had to say. I walked a mile with sorrow, and ne'er a word said she, but oh, the things I learned from her when sorrow walked with me.
Wow.
right? Like in the valley.
100%.
Bro.
Yeah. Yeah.
When you
I'm
see it with
not
how
against
much art,
mountaintops either. I'm not against mountaintops either. I'm not against summits. I love me some summits, but we can't stay there.
Yeah.
Right. That came up in our conversation with the Beagles the other day, Tyler. We can't stay there. We got to look around, get the view, and then go down and do work.
And I think that this conversation and the conversations that we've had with other guests, including the Beagles, I think are so important because there is an art or a formula to being able to walk with sadness and say, oh, the things that she taught me.
Yeah.
Right. It's an acquired skill. And I think sometimes I've talked to people who've said, I've had these terrible things happen and right. Woe is me. And my life is here.
And
I get that. And I get it because it's hard and you're in that. Right. But man, to be able to kind of to take a few steps past it and turn around and go, shoot, here's what I learned from that.
And look back and connect the dots, right?
Yeah,
and see that. So, Nick, I'm curious, like, I know you to be a man of faith, right? We've been hanging out for a wee little bit here, and faith has not come up. So talk to me a little bit about that journey.
Yeah. So that's been a long circle that's come back on itself. When I was 12, I met a guy named Bruce Chrisman, and he was he's one of those people that I'll always regard highly in my life because I read he was a local BMX pro, and he was in a magazine, they were called Ride BMX, and he was very open about his faith. That's like what half the article was about, was him and his courageousness in Christ, and I didn't think too much of it at the time, but then I met him and I was 12 and I swore like a sailor and I said, bleep, bleep, bleep.
Something, just really quick. Something is funny and hilarious about a 12-year-old with a sailor's mouth.
You just swear just to swear, and I went up to him to tell him how amazing what he was doing was. And I said like 4 expletives, and he said, thank you, I appreciate that, but you don't need to swear. Like he just said it. And I was like, oh, and he's like, how's it going? I'm Bruce. And I said, Bruce Chrisman? And he said, yeah. And that moment, I decided to become Christian, or I grew up Christian, but you know what I mean? To be Christian. And that day I quit swearing and just devoted myself to Christ. Right. And I mean, so much so that I would, I was a teenager, so I didn't do it right, but I would like get into arguments with people who didn't believe, and I would make these little stickers that said trust Jesus, and I would draw little crosses and I'd post them places. I'd go to youth group at school in the morning and then youth group at night, and my wood was not wet. I was very stoked on this thing. And then all from that exchange with Bruce. One exchange. And it shows you, and I'm not good at this, and I'm trying to learn to be better about being courageous in Christ, is you have to bear your testimony. You have to say your truth. You have to say what you believe, because your influence and example, you have no idea who it's going to affect and how it's going to affect them. And he took this 12-year-old kid and my best friend, Jerry at the time, and it changed our whole course for years. And I remember what's funny too is I was in an elevator with my girlfriend at the time. This is 5 years later, and I see this guy, and it's this older guy, and he looks at me and he goes, do you ride bikes? Do you ride BMX? He's like, you look like you have the build of a BMXer. And he's like, do you know my son? His name's Bruce Chrisman. And it was his dad. Wow. And I was like, dude, your son changed my life,
Your
But
son changed my life. Okay, so Tyler, we were talking about doing something amazing.
That's
Hey, you
amazing.
don't have to swear. Doesn't sound like Bruce was walking around changing people's lives. He was just being Bruce, right?
Yeah.
Living his faith and inviting you to, hey, stop hanging out in the mud and come up to higher ground.
I think Nick paid it forward by telling Bruce's dad that his son
Can
changed
you
his life. Can you
imagine?
imagine?
As a dad now, can you imagine?
Yeah, that's crazy. It's awesome.
yeah, I haven't even thought of it that way. What it would be like to know that you raised a virtuous son.
Yeah.
Well, I can tell you, right? My daughter comes home from Philadelphia and I'm able to FaceTime with people she taught on her mission. And they look at me like, do you know who you have? Right? Do you know what this person did for my family? Right? So you can't beat that.
And I have nothing but love for sister missionaries because that's who changed my life. You know, I'd love to tell their dads, their parents, and say, hey, your daughter changed me. You know what I mean? They brought me into this faith and this, because I went high, and then after this I went low with my faith. So then I talked about this in a talk recently. When you have a light, right, and you're walking around with a light, people kind of get attracted to that. And I became popular, even though I was not doing the drugs, I was not drinking, I was not swearing. I think people liked that. They saw that I was, I don't know, I some kind of principle of some sort. And I became popular. And then right out of high school, I started managing this band, and that band smoked weed and they would drink and they would do all these things that I was not into at all. And then curiosity comes along and I start to question my faith, and then I become atheist. Like literally, it was a downward spiral that lasted, I don't know, 12 plus years of me. I was like is Alma the Younger? Is he the one that's like against the church, right? Yeah. I was more like that. I was trying to turn people away from belief. I was very science-based and it's just physical, it's just matter, it's just, you know, there is no God, this kind of mentality. And that, I think, is what brought me as low as I got, is that type of belief and living just temporally, right? Just in for pleasure and for now. There's no eternal perspective. I would have moments of like existential dread, where also it would pop in my head that nothing meant anything, right? If there's no God, and there's no afterlife, and there's no spirit, and there's no nothing, and we're just here randomly, it was like nothing meant anything. And it would fill me with panic. And it was my spirit being like, wrong.
Right.
You know, you're wrong.
Yeah.
And that sparked a search for truth and meaning. And then I became agnostic, right? Then I'm trying, I can see that there could be a God, but I don't know what that is. And that really started this spiritual journey of like constantly thinking about it. And a weird, really simple moment that kind of changed me a little bit was I was working on a farm, painting a fence. I don't know if you ever painted fences, but it's just long and tedious. And I'm in this really deep spiritual thought, and then a bee went by and it took me out of the thought, right? And distracted me on this bee. And I recognized that moment, and I realized that the physical world was trying to distract me from my spirituality. And something about that moment made me start to pay attention to spirituality. I don't know. I don't really know how to describe it, but it really, go on. Sorry.
So what is that? What does that journey look like to rediscovering faith or reconnecting with faith and making it? I mean, I'm assuming, right, today it's a priority in your life.
Yeah.
So what does that look like, to that journey of reconnecting and recentering on faith?
So I did a while of thinking about the universe, right? You hear a lot about that. And then I started to kind of pray. And at first I would do the universe. And then eventually I switched my wording to the great creator. And I would say like whoever created my soul, I would say those kind of words. And I would feel the Spirit. And I started to feel what I now recognize as the Holy Spirit. So strong sometimes, like undeniable feelings. And so that really kept me going, trying to search for truth. And so eventually me and Lexi, this is while we were dating that I was doing this, and right around when we got married, but we eventually desired for God, religion and faith and something. But she was inactive in the church. She was inactive. Her parent, her family, she grew up LDS. And
it was just dormant.
Yeah, she left the church when she was a teenager. She had some experiences with the church that turned her off. And one of the things she liked about me was that I wasn't LDS, you know what I mean? And so I told her I don't want to go to an LDS church. She couldn't picture going to anywhere else but an LDS church, but we tried like other just normal Christian churches. And we tried the big ones with the big screens and the music and all that kind of stuff. And then we also tried some smaller ones, and some of those are really dark. We had some really bad feelings in some of them where we're like, we got to get out of here. And I think we went to an LDS church, and it didn't really come out too much. And then we moved out here. And I mean, that's a whole nother story of us coming out here, God calling us out here. So I'm all over the place.
No, you're good. You're good.
We were living with my wife's family, and we were going to move out of there. We're down in Folsom, and we were heading up to Klamath Falls. We stopped in Red Bluff. I don't know if you're from Redding, Tyler?
I've lived in Redding for 10 years.
Okay.
Yeah.
So
I grew up in Red Bluff.
Yeah.
Did you really?
Oh yeah.
Okay. So Sonora was one. She's crying for 2 hours straight from Folsom, right? Just nonstop crying. We had to take a break. So we stopped in Red Bluff, and I looked at housing in Red Bluff, and I looked at jobs in Red Bluff and Redding area. And they told me at the Denny's in Red Bluff, they said, don't live in Red Bluff. Go up to Redding area if you can. And so we looked for places, and we found decent prices. And so we decided, hey, let's check it out. And so a week later, we looked at a bunch of units. I took an interview for a farm, and we just moved out here. And I could feel God was calling me to this area. It was a really weird feeling. This is going to sound so dumb. We were at Turtle Bay. We're at the river, and I felt like submerging myself in the water as like a commitment to this place. I don't know how to describe it. It was like a baptism. It was like a covenant. It was like it was a commitment. It was a really weird feeling, and I had this really strong desire to do it. And so we came out here, and because of my desire for spirituality, I would talk with the LDS missionaries. I would talk with the Jehovah's Witnesses when they would come to the door, and I would have a great time talking with them. And so I'm talking with some of the LDS missionaries, and then I got one that rubbed me the wrong way. And I was like, no more. I don't want this anymore. Stop coming. And they stopped. Like, it kind of ended for a little while. And then we moved into the house across the street from us. And a few months later, some sister missionaries knocked on my door. And I was kind of like, how do you know I moved here? And, you know what I mean? Yeah. I'm guessing my mother-in-law sent our records over or something, But is because of those sisters who took the time with me, the patience with a stubborn guy like me. And you said love, share, and invite, right? They loved me, they shared the gospel, and they gave me invites. And it's because of those invitations and actually trying them that I am where I am today. And I couldn't be more thankful to those sister missionaries. Sister Washburn, she's one of them. I got to throw them out real quick. Sister Washburn, Sister Salveson, Sister Farr. These are pivotal people in my life who read me Alma 32, right? Who invited me to try the experiment, who invited me to pray in the name of Jesus Christ. And I couldn't be more thankful. And here I am today, and I couldn't be in a better place than I am right now,
Yeah.
Okay, well, I don't want to spend some time with you without, and thank you for that. I love that journey. I love how you honored those sisters. Thank you, sisters, for their service. Right? I mean, they're grown up living their own lives, right? And I follow some of them on social media, and they're great people, but they have left a lasting impression on you. Can we talk about Havoc?
yes.
Can we talk about that ordeal, that trial, right?
Yeah.
So Havoc is your youngest child. Talk to me about that. Got scary.
Yeah. That was another hinge moment in my life that has completely changed me and made me who I am today. So me and Lexi was pregnant with Havoc, right? And he's about 6 weeks old at the time. And this is in December of 2021.
So he's 6 weeks along.
6 weeks along, yes. Sorry, 6
Right.
weeks along. She's pregnant with him. And we go to, I work for the city of Reading. And so we got to be on the float in the Christmas parade out here in Reading. So we have this great time, but Lexi's kind of getting these headaches, and really severe ones. But she's always kind of gotten these headaches. And then she starts throwing up, and then she gets stronger headaches, and she keeps throwing up, and she can't keep down food, she can't keep down water. But it kind of feels like it's all related, right? She's got the headaches, she's got the nausea's causing the headaches. So she goes to the ER one night, drives herself over there, and just wants to get an IV and some anti-nausea kind of stuff. And they give her that, and they send her home. And then I think it was a day or two later, and she's getting worse. And all of a sudden she's confused, like not making any sense. But we thought she hasn't eaten any food, she hasn't been keeping water down, she's had these migraines, so it's all related. And I remember a moment of her saying, "Is this my hand?" Right? She's looking at her hand and being like, "Is this my hand?" And we're like, "All right, we got to get you some fluid in you. So let's get you," we called the midwife over, one of her midwives, and had her try and get an IV in her, because we didn't want to go back to ER where it's super expensive, and they couldn't do it. So we end up going to the ER, and we spend 10 hours of them doing test after test. And they can't find anything. But the lady said, "I don't like how confused you are. I want to run a test. I want to run a CT scan and see maybe you have an infection or something going on in your brain that's confusing you." So they run the test, and all we want to do is just go home. But they come back with a test, and she's like, she has a brain hemorrhage.
Oh my gosh.
She has a blood clot in her brain that she's having a stroke. And now you look back and you're like, obviously it was a stroke. But at the time, she's 30. So at no point are we thinking stroke's not even on your mind. And my brain, I couldn't compute it. I was like, no, we came in here for water. Like, we needed an IV to get her some water. And did you switch the scans or something? And they're like, no, we need to get her somewhere that can deal with her because she's pregnant and she's going through this. So they have to switch hospitals. So they're like, we sent out the alert and we need to get her to a new hospital. And I'm still kind of feeling like fighting it a little bit because I'm like, no, you're tripping. Like, there's no way this is what's happening. And then she starts to have a seizure, like almost immediately afterwards. And it was a moment of like, I have no control right now. Like, this is so out of my hands. I need to stop fighting this and just submit, just whatever they need to do. This just became real. So she has to get in the ambulance and she gets transferred over to Mercy. And there's so many stories. I'm trying to figure out how to keep it in line. She gets into the ER and they call me in, and the doctor, we're doing like a teledoc kind of thing. And he's telling me all the stuff that they might have to do. They might have to do surgery. They might have to go inside her brain and try and break up these blood clots. Apparently she had 2 strokes. One was from the lack of blood flow. One's from the brain hemorrhage. And it just felt like a dream, like a bad one, like a nightmare. And I'm just like, okay, whatever. I'm here, and tell me what we need to do. And so eventually they transfer her up to the ICU at Mercy, and they bring me up, and the doctor tells me, I just want to let you know she could die tonight. Like, this is very serious. I know she's pregnant. Just, you need to be prepared for whatever happens tonight. And then he told me, now go get some rest. Go to the visitor's room and go get some rest, which is like,
yeah, right. Last thing.
How am I going to do that?
Yeah.
And that was a rough moment in my life of laying down in the visitor's room and really wrestling before God, of I've got Satan in my ear being like, you should have come in sooner. This is your fault. What are you going to tell the kids? I got 2 kids at home right now. And what are you going to tell them if she dies? What are you going to do? And I'm going through this whole thing. And I remember laying there so scared and feeling not bad, but I'm praying, I'm talking to God, and I'm like, whatever your will is, I submit. But please don't take my being scared as a lack of faith. I remember feeling really, really guilty about that fear that I was feeling, that like feeling of being scared. It was just like, please don't take this the wrong way. I'm just scared, And then I woke up to Mitch Lowther in the waiting room.
Love
Mitchell.
Yes, I have so much love for that guy.
Yeah.
I woke up to him in the waiting room, and he's like, just go back to sleep. You're good. Just go back to sleep. And then I wake up to him and Dan Mayer in the waiting room. And we just had this talk. And I'm bawling, you know what I mean? I'm just a wreck. I don't know what to do. All I can do is just have faith. It was like the most faith strengthening moment of my whole life, where I just knew God has a plan. This is his daughter, and what he does is what he's going to do. You know what I mean? I don't have any control over this. And we go and we give Lexi a blessing. And at this point, she can't even talk. She's just laying there with her vitals going. She can't talk. She doesn't know who people are. She's like nearly brain dead at this point. And we gave her this blessing. And maybe within a day, maybe that same day, I felt God start working. And it was a really hard feeling to describe. but I actually knew the moment that God was working in our lives to fix this thing that was happening. And it took a long time. It felt like a long time, right? It felt like forever. It was 2 weeks in the hospital. But Sister Jerry Bell let me sleep in the ICU. So I slept there for 2 weeks. And Lexi just progressed day after day, little by little. I mean, she couldn't read. She could barely remember anybody, she had to like remember that she had kids. She had to remember that she was pregnant. And that was the scariest of this whole thing, is that she's pregnant with our little boy, Havoc. Whole time. And about 3 weeks in, she's at home right before Christmas. It was the most wonderful thing. We had her home just in time so she could spend time with her family for Christmas. We took her to the Reading Lights. We had like this really...
Not the parade.
No, not the parade.
No more parades.
No, we actually didn't go this year. Yeah, it was too much. And but we went around. We walked her in the wheelchair through the Reading Lights and everything, and had this really special time together. And you wouldn't know that she ever went through this. I remember thinking, if she comes back to 80%, I'll be so happy. Do you know what I mean?
Yeah.
If she could just, even if she's in a wheelchair the rest of her life, I would feel as lucky as can be to still have her, to still have the mother of our children with our children. Do you know what I mean?
Mm-hmm.
And at this point, you literally wouldn't know that she ever went through what she went through.
That's miraculous.
And so we end up having Havoc. I know the whole point of the story is supposed to be on Havoc.
No, that was the point.
Okay.
That was the point.
So there's a million different tangents I could take on this journey that we go on in recovery and blessings and God in our lives and all these things that happen along the way. And so we end up, it's July, and we're going to do a home birth. We had our last kid home birth. We want to do this one home birth. And we end up having Havoc with no midwife, no anybody, just me and Lexi in our house. And
that's the name. I gotta believe, like, that's it. You're like, this has been Havoc.
It has been 100% Havoc the whole entire time. And but I think I might have mentioned before, her and I decided on Havoc also because God's hand was in this kid's life. God's hand was in Lexi's life and was in his life. He could have gone the other way with this. Lexi could have died. Havoc could have died with her, and it would have been fully justified. Do you know what I mean? Like, it would be.
Yeah, it's not. Yeah,
there's nothing I can do.
Yeah.
And
somebody listening to your story may be on the other end. And they lost.
Yeah, exactly. People, you have to trust God's plan no matter which way it goes.
Yeah.
I am forever thankful to Heavenly Father for sparing my wife and my child, and every day that I look at him, I think he shouldn't even be here. Like, even if she survived 2 seizures, brain hemorrhage, blood clot, lack of blood flow, and he's this healthy, handsome, perfect boy, and there's no way I couldn't look at it as a complete miracle. And so God's hand is in this kid's life. And so we think God spared him for a reason. So he's going to be havoc for the adversary is our thinking on it.
I love it.
Hey, Nick, can I take you back? I'm going to take you back to December 8th, 2021. And you're dealing, right? You're going through it. And I text you and I say, hey, Nick, I heard the news about your wife and I fell on my knees this morning praying for you guys. I can only imagine what this experience has been like for you. Please know that you have a lot of people praying for Lexi and for all of you. I hope you feel that and that it gives you strength to face this unimaginable challenge with courage and faith in God's plan. The Freemans are praying for your family. If you need to talk or need anything at all, just ask and I'll be there. And then you say, thank you so much, brother. That means a lot. And I can truly feel the support from the Holy Spirit and all of you. I felt like Enos wrestling before God in the wilderness, crying out to the Lord today. And although I am scared, I feel I'm coming out strengthened and optimistic.
I can't believe you have that.
I love that. I love that, right? In the middle, in the valley. How does Nick respond to that? I'm scared, but I'm optimistic and I'm strengthened and I can feel it.
I could, and I remember you sending me that message, and I remember knowing, I can't describe to you guys the power of your prayers and the people fasting.
Fasting, yeah.
Unbelievable. It makes me, I'm choked up a little bit just thinking about it.
Well, that's the key, right? Like the whole secret to this, Nick, is remembering that.
Yeah.
Right? Because someday Havoc's going to be 17 years old and he's going to put the car into the garage door and you're going to have to remember like, oh yeah, I'm grateful you're still around, right?
Yeah, exactly.
Like remembering those moments, remembering those times when God's hand has been there. And then acknowledging too that there's faith to be healed and faith not to be healed. Right? And surrendering. That's hard.
Yeah. It's one of those moments where I know God's going, you know I'm there. He revealed himself to me in that moment. And my faith will never be the same because just like you said, if I can remember, right? If I can remember that feeling and that time, I can know with a surety that no matter what's going on, God is working in my life. God exists. He's there. He knows me. He cares about me and has a plan no matter what is happening. And what is the saying? It rains upon the just and the unjust, right?
Yeah.
You just have to remember that.
Well, and with him, we can, right? With him, we can do anything. We've come a long ways since Funk on Cheese, Tyler Gould.
Yeah, we have. I was just going to say, you might want to get a tape recorder and record this story, but we took care of that for you tonight. So, but I mean it. I mean, I think, there's power when we intentionally look back and remember sort of where these miracles occur. But I think, I also think that power is magnified when we pass that same story, that same vivid memory onto those people that we love, right? And we say, Havoc, here you are, you're 16, I'm ready to choke you out, but here's what I want to show you. I want you to listen to this because this is why you're here, right? This is why your mom is not letting me choke you out, right? Because of all of this. And I do believe that. I think that the experiences that we have, sometimes we have these experiences and we stick them in this treasure chest, right? We're like, that is amazing. I'm sticking it over there, right? And when I need it, I'm going to go over there and crack the key. I'll look at it and I'll stick it back on and I'll be like, oh, good. But the reality is that thing should be sitting in the middle of our dining room table and all of our kids should be, praising the Lord with us about that moment. Right. It's interesting. In my family history, I always thought that there was no members of the church. Like my family was the first ones, right? And years, long story, I come across a journal of somebody back in the 1800s who joined the church in England and came over and traveled. And I'm reading this journal and I'm thinking, this is a game changer, man, for me, right? Because I'm holding these miracles and I just lay them out on the table. And as a family, we're looking at them. So it's not only my legacy, right? The things that I've gone through, but now we're compiling, right? The cool thing is that you relate this story, and then Lexi's going to relate this story with a different angle on it that has her own understanding of how faith impacted her journey through that. And your kids at some point will relate that same story with how faith impacted their journey through those things, no matter how small they were.
Just like the Old Testament.
Amen.
Right?
Yeah.
Just like the Old Testament.
Amen.
Tell
so
me
I love
again
that
about Moses,
Yeah.
And here's the thing too. Whoever was in Denny's that day and said, keep on driving, man. You got to go to Reading. Right?
That guy's a prophet, bro.
Where does that come from, right?
Absolutely.
Because
for
my
so many
mom,
reasons.
when I'm 4 years old, my mom stops at Denny's in Red Bluff and she feels like she's home. And we moved to Red Bluff.
Really?
Right? Denny's in Red Bluff.
No way.
Yeah.
Denny's is
But that's what I love about this life, right? I mean, these things, these amazing things happen. And Tyler, you said it. Amazing. I'm not talking Everest.
Right.
To the Joe Schmo movie watcher, it's not even a highlight of the movie, but it's like, ooh, get the popcorn, sit on the edge of your seat, because right here changes everything.
Yeah. Yeah.
I love that. And, we could ask you, Nick, we got all kinds of questions like, hey, everybody's dealing. How do you deal? You just taught us.
Yeah.
Right. I love this idea of like, hey, Nick, paint me a picture of a moment in life when you look around and everything feels truly rich. Well, getting your wife home.
Yeah.
Pushing your wife in the wheelchair and through the lights. I mean, come on. That's amazing. That's amazing.
That's it.
Yeah.
That's
and
everything.
Nothing has changed our relationship more for the better than that experience. And that's the hard part. That's where hindsight comes in, right? At the time, everything's falling apart. I'm thinking about how I'm going to tell my kids that my wife died, or you know what I mean? Or something. And then now me and Lexi and our family have grown into this tight, we've never been in a better place than where we're at. I've never
defend it.
changed.
Defend it, right? With everything you got, and hold and cleave to those memories, right? Cleave to those stories.
Put those
Cleave
things
to
on the
that
dining
journey.
room table, man.
Yeah,
You know what I mean?
put it
And
right there in the center of
celebrate
every
that
story. Because, like, Nick, I cannot imagine a doctor telling me tonight you might lose your wife. Wow.
Yeah, I'm. I mean, I love it. I love the. I think that it's interesting because there's, like you mentioned, Mike. There's people that are gonna be listening to this podcast that have had similar experiences but haven't had a similar outcome, right? And I think we've all talked to those people as well that have had those tough things that haven't had the outcome they've desired, but yet one of the things that is maybe common ground is that faith, right? That faith that guides them through those rough waters. And man, how you mentioned, Nick, existential dread, that idea of like, there's nothing. And can you imagine being in that spot, in that hospital, and just thinking, this is it?
Food for worms?
Yeah, that's exactly what was just in my head, right?
Yeah.
Worm food.
Yeah.
Compared to knowing that I'm sealed to her for eternity as a family. And if she does pass, it will be horrible. But this is eternal. This life. This isn't this temporal thing. And the hardest part for people, the word that has been coming out a lot since this experience is submission, right? Like you see in the Bible all the time in the scriptures, fear not, fear not, fear not. And it's because if you could see what God sees, you'd see this greater outcome. And he's like, just chill, right?
Yeah.
I know it's hard, but I promise you it works out to greatness. And it's a lot easier to say that now because my wife survived, right?
Man.
Sure.
I've got my boy. But
Well, Tyler, it's like that line, you look down, you're on a dotted line, and a little more effort puts you over that line, and glorious success happens.
Yeah.
And so many times we're right there at the moment and we say, I'm out.
Yeah. Well, I love that perspective too of being able to, and this is so hard. I mean, no matter, like for me, it's hard to kind of step back and look, take the blinders off and see the whole picture, right? And be able to look at that, because at some point in time, you know, you got to imagine we're sitting with God and he says, hey, you're going to go down there for 80 or 90 years and it's going to be tough. And when we're looking at it this way, we say, shoot, 90 years. Yeah. Sign me up. That's a no brainer. Right. And then we get down here and we're like, this is crazy.
Hey, you don't understand how heavy it's going to be when you're just a spirit, right?
Right. Yeah. Yeah. But I think that being able to step back, like you said, you know, it would be horrible to lose my wife in this way. But man, I can look at it, as painful as it is, and say, there's a tomorrow still, you know?
Yeah, I got to give a shout out to brother Tony Carpenter, right? He, at this exact same time, his wife was in the hospital for COVID and she did pass, you know, no matter how much effort he put in. And that man has grown. His faith is inspiring. He knows that God's plan is there, and he thinks she's there to do the work on the other side, you know, and he's living his life in this, trying to wrap his head around and find out what God wants for him here. And he knows that Kelly's on the other side, and they're kind of working together on different sides of the veil.
But there's a continuation there somewhere, right?
Yeah. And that's a powerful testimony.
And he's softer, sweeter, and better.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I love that, man. I love it.
Hey, is there anybody? We've been at this a little bit, but I do want to give you the spot, right? Is there anybody that you would like to honor as you sit where you sit in this rich life of yours?
So I have a few. So I've got President Mayer, Dan Mayer, I should say. I'll try and drop the brothers and the presidents. Dan Mayer. I love that man. I have so much admiration for that man, and he was there for me in all sorts of ways. But that moment was a very special moment. Mitch Lowther. Mitch Lowther is someone,
friend of the program.
Yes,
I love me some Mitch Lowther, man.
He's one of my favorite people, and he's an inspiration to me. I have faith, I have hope, but I'm learning charity, right? I'm working on that side of me, and Mitch has charity. Mitch has love for people, and I admire that and aspire to that. Brother
Hey,
Freeman.
Mitch Lowther, when you listen to this, don't let any of that go to your head, brother.
Plus, Mitch Lowther has met Chuck Norris, so he's on everybody's list, man.
Yeah, but I got to say to him right now, you big dork. Nerd. Just to bring it back a little bit. And not to put you on the spot, but Mike Freeman.
Appreciate that.
You are someone who, you talk about people who you talk with and you leave with something, right? And every time I talk with you, I leave with something, and you provoke more out of me. You make me desire to be deeper in my faith and more understanding of the scriptures. So just to put you on the spot.
I'll take it. I'll take that. I appreciate that. Thank you. Working on taking compliments. Stephen Mitchell taught me.
Yeah. Amen.
And then my wife, Lexi, for being with me in my lows and growing together with me in this faith. And through this trial and being a great mother and running our household, she's really leaned into being a stay-at-home mom. It's a hard job, right? Ever since that situation happened, we went to sole income, right? I'm the only one working. She's home with the kids. We got 3 of them. And it was a rough transition, but she has really found her stride, and it's beautiful to see. And then this is going to sound very cheesy, but my kids, I got to honor my kids because they bring out the best in me. They make me want to be more than I am. And they make me not want to look back with regret of my time with them. They make me want to bridle my passions and really spend time with my family.
That's quite a list.
That's a good list, man.
Something happens to the space when we introduce the verb honor.
Yeah.
I love it.
I got to tell you, Nick, you did all right tonight, man. You did all right, man.
So.
Yeah. Jury's still out, but no, this was great. One of the blessings of this podcast, and I probably say this too much, but a lot of times I get to sit in this chair and talk to someone that I've never met before, who in a conversation for a couple hours pushes me to a better place. And I love that. And that's the power of conversation, right? That's the power of being curious and getting to know people. And I think that's the power of vulnerability. And what you did tonight was, it opened up my heart to some things and my soul to some things. And so I'm grateful for that, for sure. I'm grateful, Mike, for dragging you in here, man, and making you come in here, because now I'm a better man for it. Listen, Nick, we end every show the same way. We are one trick ponies, Mike.
You talk about creativity. We only do sunsets.
Yeah, we only do sunsets, man. So for our sunset, we ask all our guests the same question. We ask, and we pose that same question to you, Nick, and it might seem redundant after the time that we've spent together, because you've painted such a beautiful picture of a rich life. But Nick, what does it mean to you to be considered the richest man in town?
For me, it's knowing that I'm not entitled to any of the blessings that I've been given in my life, and that I should be grateful for all of it. Every bit of it's a blessing from God. And it's in those moments that I recognize that I feel rich. Being surrounded by people who I love and love me makes me feel rich. I had a moment the other day when I got home from a good day of work, and I got home and I couldn't wait to see my family. I knew they were going to be excited to see me, and I knew they had a great day of homeschool and all these things that I've been able to provide for them through these blessings. And I stopped the car, and there's this ivy in my front yard, and it's got these little purple flowers. And I just saw the ivy and the flowers and the house, the family. And I just thought, I am so lucky. I can't believe I have this simple little house and these stupid little flowers and this wonderful little family. And I don't know. I'm just so blessed.
Man, Tyler, if that's not a George Bailey impersonation, I don't know what is, right?
Yeah, I
Right
love
from
that.
the movie, like just everything about my life when we're in these great places. And I acknowledge we're not always in those great places, but boy, when it's sweet, man.
I love that idea, Nick. You talk about gratitude, and I appreciate you sharing that as part of the equation for a rich life. You know, one of the things you said was, when I recognize that, I feel it, right? I know that I'm rich, and that's a great reminder for me. So, Nick, I appreciate you, man. This has been a blast, and I'm grateful to get to know you, and I'm grateful for the opportunity to spend some time with you. Thanks for sharing what you've shared, and man, what a night, Mike.
Well, we talk about show up.
Yeah.
Right. And it's important to show up every day in our lives, right? But like when we have the opportunity to hang out with Nick, man, the way you showed up tonight, brother, right? Powerful, authentic, vulnerable, all of it. It hopefully lights our fire, right? Hopefully it at least throws some logs on that thing so we can blaze away. I mean, I loved it, and I learned a ton from you. So thank you.
No, thanks for having me on, you guys.
It's been a blast, man.
We're not done. You're coming back.
That's right. Go tell your wife that we said thank you for letting us borrow you for a couple hours, and you know, hug those kids, man. We appreciate you. It's been a blast, man. Have a great night.
You guys as well. I appreciate it.
My big brother George, the richest man in town.